who have stuck with us and you've been receiving my emails. Today we are going to be working on my Kendall snap pouch demo. I did go ahead and film a full step-by-step tutorial that I posted to my YouTube channel last week because I felt bad that I was in bed with a migraine on Wednesday. So on Thursday, I went ahead quickly and just filmed a video tutorial and posted it. So I know a lot of you already went ahead and ordered your faux leather for the little pouches. Tons of you have already posted pictures. Some of you have even made 5, 10 different little pouches. They only take a few minutes to make, and so I wanted to do a live demo so that I can be available to answer some of your questions if you have that. If you are watching us here on Facebook, give us a thumbs up. Maybe go ahead and share this live WIP Wednesday episode on your page. So if you have crafty friends who sew and quilt and are looking for a super cute and quick project, they can watch us as well. And if you're catching us on YouTube, give the video a thumbs up and feel free to share the link as well. Now, you can probably hear the rain. I'm not sure if my mic is picking that up, but it is pouring here. So hopefully the power stays on, because in rural Central Florida, we tend to lose power a lot, especially during these summer storms. But let's go ahead and say hi to some of our friends. Hey, Kay from Jacksonville. I saw somebody earlier mentioned Maureen, said super hot and humid in Central Florida, checking in. It absolutely is. I actually have some guys here now. We are re-fencing up our front garden. Some of you that have been following me for a while may recall that we made our front garden out of pallets. Well, the pallets have already deteriorated. It's been maybe 5 years or so. So they're actually fencing it up with more permanent material. So I'm excited for that. And they're clearly still out there working. They're used to Florida, right? Florida weather. Let's see who else we have on here. Hi, Lily, tuning in from Sweden. Awesome. Pat from Ohio. Hi, everybody. Jackie B says it's raining in New York as well. All right, so let's go ahead. We're going to flip to the over-the-shoulder camera shot. And before we start on the demo, I'm going to talk a little bit about this magazine, Quilt Folk magazine, that I'm featured in, because I have a coupon code for y'all that's valid only until the end of July, I believe, the last day of the month. And so if you haven't seen this already, maybe you're not subscribed to my email newsletter list or follow me on Facebook. Those are definitely great places to follow me so that you can be up to date with the most current info of what's going on with me. This magazine is amazing. It's like a quilt magazine, tons of inspiration, amazing photography, great writing, but it's like a coffee table magazine book kind of, and it's 100% advertising free. So it's called Quilt Folk. I know a lot of you already subscribe to it. If you don't, definitely check it out. This is issue number 19, and it's about like the northern part of Florida. So it features different quilt designers, quilters, quilt collectors, like anything that has to do with quilting and this region. So I was so lucky and honored to be featured in this. My friend Mary Fons, who's an amazing writer, wrote the story on me here. And I'll just give y'all a sneak peek. That's me here in my studio. So I had the photographers come here. They took some amazing photos of our homestead. There's me with my cows. And the story is basically kind of on my life and my work and how I got to be where I am. And I was telling my husband, I'm like, this is my life, and I was inspired reading this story. So hopefully those of you that go ahead and get the magazine will get to be inspired, not just by me, but the countless other quilters. There's my friend Bridget, who lives here also in Gainesville, Florida. Her stuff is featured in here. Just the photography is amazing. And we're going to go ahead and put the code on the screen for you right here. You can just go to quiltfolklikethis.com and you'll see where it says current issue. This is it. Issue 19 is the most current one. And if you use that code Vanessa QF19, you'll get 20% off. So if you want to check it out, read my story, and of course check out all the other amazing stories in here. 100% advertising free, and there's like 164 pages. It's gorgeous. Just a beautiful, beautiful magazine to check out. If you already got it, let us know what you thought about it in the comments below, because I know a bunch of you already received your copy. All right. Oh, thank you. Margie says, I love the article on you. Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah. So check it out. Maybe if you've been eyeing the magazine and now, you know, with 20% coupon code, this is your time to grab it if you want to. Okay. Now let's move on to the Kendall snap pouch. So for this little snap pouch, you can see I have two options here. I made this one out of cork fabric that I bought from my friend Sarah Lawson at So Sweetness. She has a ton of different types of cork. This one has a little gold fleck, super cute. And then this faux leather is from a pack that we sell. So I have included links in the description box below on where you can find the 4-packs. We're basically, or my team put together 4-pack bundles of just assorted 4-color sheets. Let's say something like this, some neutrals, some brights, is basically what you'll get. and we have the link for that in the description box below. Now, I designed the pouch so that the free printable PDF template is small enough and the dimensions fit so that you can actually cut out 2 of them from one of my sheets of faux leather. And I'll show you here because I already started. So this was cut out of here. And the printable PDF is on our blog. I included the link in the description box below. Just make sure when you go to that page on my website, just scroll down to where it says supplies and you'll see it. There's a link right there that says Kendall Snap Pouch download. So you'll want to download it like this. A quick overview of what this 1" by 1" square is for those of you that maybe are new to PDF patterns. You basically want to download the PDF, it's just a 1 sheet, and save it to your computer. When you go to print it, make sure that your printer settings are set to print at 100%. Sometimes it kind of like shrinks it, auto shrinks it, or makes it bigger. So if you want your pouch to be the same size as mine and to be able to be cut out in this orientation from our faux leather sheets, you'll definitely want to make sure that when you print it out, this measures 1" by 1". And I'll show you, you can just print out the 1 page, take your ruler, place it on top, and if it measures exactly 1" by 1", that means your printer settings were correct and it is now printed at the size that I designed it to be, okay? So you would basically cut out from there and you get the template like this. And then I orient it this way so that we can cut out 2. 1, and then you would just scoot this one over and 2. So super efficient, super affordable, and great quick little gifts. Now, to give you an overview of the pouch itself, it literally takes a couple minutes to make. Once you print this out and you carefully trace around it, make sure you take some time because there are some curves here. Now, I'll share some tips with you on this. I like to use my 28mm Olfa rotary cutter for small and curved areas. So I just carefully cut it out like that. Then, let's see where my bigger one is. I would not recommend, even if you have a 45mm rotary cutter, for you to try and get in here. It makes it really easy to continue cutting in, and then you're not going to have the template cut out the way that it's supposed to. So if you only have a larger rotary cutter, and these little guys, we do sell them in our online shop, so you can do a search for that at craftygemini.com/shop if you don't have one of these. They're great for garments, anything where you're cutting curves or in tight spaces, okay? What I would do if you only have the 45mm is cut the straighter areas here and here, 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 all that. But the curves, do I need to scoot over a little bit? Is it? Let me, how about there? Is that better? Zoom, okay. And so these little tight spaces here, what I would do is actually take a pencil and trace this out and then carefully take scissors to cut around those areas. And that way you ensure that you're not, cutting further in than you want to, okay? So after you cut out 1 or 2, then, so easy, y'all. All you're gonna do is flip it over. I'm going to take this side that has the flat edge, the shorter bit, and fold this up like this, all right? And there's our pouch. All you have to do is basically sew here to a little bit past this point and backstitch. You definitely want to backstitch at the beginning and end, and the same thing on the other side. That's it. It's just those 2 seams. Because the faux leather allows us to make projects where the edges are raw and it doesn't unravel on us, the same thing goes for the cork. If you have real leather, faux leather, let me think what else, like a good quality, like thicker vinyl, not something too flimsy, cork fabric, anything like that, that the edges don't fray and that it can be left with the raw edges exposed is going to be perfect for this project, okay? Let me make sure I don't have any questions here in case anybody has questions for me. And I have the mad allergies, y'all, because we have been moving pallets outside and then outside today too. And all this rain, there's like everything is growing out here. It's crazy. Okay, so now I'm going to take my sewing machine. And the snaps, let's just briefly go over the closure. I'll talk a little bit more about it once I make it, once I finish sewing. The snaps are just plastic cam snaps. And I have a link for the little pack that I use or that I bought online. I just get it off Amazon. You get a ton of different colors and you get the little snap pliers and stuff to install it. So I'm going to be using light blue on this brighter blue pouch, okay? But we'll install that in a minute. Let's go ahead. Let's see. Valerie says, do you have any tips for adding embroidery to personalize the pouch? So my tip for you, Valerie, would be cut out the template first, okay, so that you see what's going to be oriented which way. And then, like I said, fold it up the way that it's going to be. And I think it helps visually so that you know where to place it in your hoop. I would do this like a floating machine embroidery technique, right? So if you put clips like this, then you know, okay, this is gonna be the front. Fold this down to see how far down it's gonna be, because you would not want to embroider something that goes too far up here, so that then obviously when you close it and snap it shut, you're covering part of your design. So these are all the design parts of it that you need to keep in mind. Then I would fold this down. You can even put your clip there so that it holds everything. And that way you give yourself a visual of the finished closed pouch, and then you say, okay, I basically have, let's see how much room here, like a 2" by maybe, I would say maybe 2" by 3.5" space, just to keep everything away from the outer edges, and down from here and up from the bottom fold. So that's kind of the space that you would have. After you do this, maybe take your chalk marker and draw yourself kind of the crosshair there. Then I would just go like this, this, open it, hit it, your hoop and the stabilizer with a spray base, like a KK2000, which is my favorite. Spray it and then center it, right? And then just embroider on it there. That is the steps that I would take to do some machine embroidery. Persita is asking, what would you use these for? So awesome, great question. I'm going to set that aside. So this is the one that I made out of cork, and I'm going to show you what all I have in here. This is like my little go-to knitting pouch. I have a little ball of scrap yarn, scrap sock yarn for holding stitches or whatever I need it for. Okay, I took everything out. I have a progress keeper, some stitch markers here, a couple of tapestry needles for weaving in my ends for crochet or knitting work. I have a little measuring tape that I can fit in there. I have this super handy little tool. It looks like a tapestry needle kind of. It's a little bit bigger, but about the same thickness or so. One end is like a knitting needle, and the other end is a small crochet hook. So this is like a must-have for me if I'm knitting and I have a drop stitch. This is what I use to pick it up, the little crochet end. And then I have these super cute little, I think these are Westcott. I've had these scissors maybe for like, I don't know, 8 years or something. But they're like the cutest little ones to have. So I fit this little Knitting Notions kit in one of these pouches. Okay, so that's one option. In another one that I have here, it's like a hand sewing Notions toolkit. I have some pins, another pair of little scissors. These are obviously bigger. My thimble, you can put a little bit of winded up thread or a small thread spool if you do a lot of hand stitching work, that kind of stuff. But it's also cool to give maybe as a little gift with some cash or a gift card in it. My daughter likes to put her money in it. She'll put some, you know, folded up dollar bills, some coins, close it up, pop it in her purse, and she's out the door. So hopefully that gives you some ideas. If some of you have already made it, because I know a lot of you have, let us know in the comments, what are you using your little pouches, or your Kendall Snap pouches for? And that way some of us can get some other ideas. Okay, great. Valerie says, thanks, Vanessa. Great plan. I'm going to try to embroider some on. That's definitely going to be the best way to do it, so you can visually see and carve out the space that you have for the embroidery design. You don't want to be guessing with that stuff, okay? All right, so let's go back to this one. I'm placing it like this. Now keep in mind, because this is faux leather or cork or whatever fabric you're using that doesn't fray, we are not going to sew this like we normally would, where I usually say pretty sides together, right? This is going to be wrong sides together because the edges are raw and exposed. So clip it like this. And you just really need one clip. Let me grab my little Juki. Now, a quick note about the Juki LB5020s. These are what we recommend as like a beginner or travel machine. We love these. There's over 20 of you right now on the wait list. We are planning to get some more. There's been a lot of delays at like California ports and stuff like that, but we are looking to get about 15 more next month. So if you're on the wait list for the machine, be on the lookout, because as soon as we restock it, our system will email everybody on the wait list for that. Okay, so now I just have 100% polyester thread here. Polyester is what I prefer when I make pouches, bags, backpacks, things that, wallets, stuff that's going to get a lot of wear and tear, and then I'm going to want to pack full of stuff. That's just my preference. Can you use cotton for this project? Absolutely. So if that's all you have, go ahead and use it. No big deal. Now for this, I do have a video with some tips on how to work with clear vinyl, which for some people, those same tips really seem to help them sew with faux leather or like a textured or glitter vinyl, as well as cork fabric. Y'all have heard me say this a bunch of times already. On my Jukis, I don't really have that problem. So I don't have anything special here. This is the basic universal foot on my machine. All I'm going to do is lengthen my stitch length. Remember, even if it's a construction seam, we want to give it a little more length, especially when we're working with bulkier fabrics, because we want the feed dogs to pull more of that fabric. If you have your stitch length set to like 1 millimeter long, that machine is not going to pull any fabric through. It's literally just going to stay stitching in the same place. So if you've ever had like a buildup of thread on the back of your project, That's why. Lengthen that stitch length when you're working with bulky fabrics, even if it's for a construction seam, which a construction seam is what I'm saying when I talk about sewing 2 layers or more together in an area that's going to get wear and tear, right? This is the side of the pouch. It's definitely going to be pushed out based on whatever I put inside of it. Okay. Kay says, how about a decorative stitch all the way around? Absolutely. That would be a great way to play around with the decorative stitches on your sewing machine. For me, I'm just going to do a straight stitch, keep it simple, but you can totally do that. That would be cute. Just keep in mind that depending on how wide the decorative stitch goes, it may, you know, it's going to make your pouch, basically the usable space inside, smaller. Because even if I did a zigzag, it's going to take up more room than the 1/8 of an inch straight stitch seam allowance that I'm about to use here. Okay? All right. Maudel says, I was in at San Francisco Bay on a yacht and saw dozens of ships waiting to offload. There's your shipment. Yeah, I'm waiting to hear back from Juki and from the guys at So Many Things on when those will be back in stock. That's funny. Okay, so my stitch length defaults to 2.2. I'm going to go all the way up, I think, to a 3mm stitch length, which sounds like a top stitch length if I was just sewing cotton, but you'll see that it won't actually be like a true 3mm stitch length because I have bulkier fabric. But I'm going to sink my needle down here. Okay, now I'm in the fabric. I'm going to take 1 stitch and then I'm going to hit it with a back stitch or 2. Right? Because at the top is where you're like kind of putting some pressure on it when you're putting stuff in it. So if you don't back stitch at the top, you're literally going to put 3 things in there, and when you open it to get it, those stitches will just start to come apart. All right, let's see. Okay, so I'm going to use an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now, the top couple inches, super easy because it's straight, right? But we do have a slight little curve that we need to take here. So you want to maybe lower the speed on your machine if you have that option, and maybe if you're new to sewing curves. And I am just turning like that. Notice that I do the whole curve just with the one hand. Now, I've come past the curve, and because our template piece had us cut one continuous piece, you know, where it's folded, it's just a fold. It's not 2 separate pieces. So you don't have to stitch all the way across the fold because the fabric is holding that closed, right? It's just on the fold. So once I come past that about 1/2 inch past the curve, I'm just going to hit it with a couple back stitches because you want to secure that too. We'll lift the needle up, lift my presser foot up, and I'm using purple thread here, so you probably can't see the stitches. But this is another great way to kind of just feature variegated threads, fun pops of color, like on this one. It's the black faux leather, and I use pink thread, and then I did a pink snap. I think that's super cute. Just, you know, you can change things up. Now, we're done with one side. We're going to come over to this next side, and then I'll show you what I do to kind of trim things up and clean it up because all our edges are raw. So I'm starting about 1/2 inch over, like down the fold line, needle in. I took 2 stitches. Oop, that's not the one I meant to hit. Back stitch is what I want to do. Okay, and now we're going to go. And I can see that I'm a little off there. This can happen because of the little peak parts of the inside fold, but just if you want, you can sew like a slightly bigger seam allowance because then we're going to trim it next. All right, there, make sure I'm catching my layers, and then I'm just going to stitch straight. So again, I'm just going to reiterate this. Not all machines are going to be able to sew through the faux leather like this with just the universal foot. So play around with a scrap piece, you know, until you figure out what your machine likes or doesn't like. But again, on my Jukis, I don't have any problems with them. So I'm just trimming away all the little bits. Now I'm going to grab a sharper pair of scissors that's bigger, and I can cut through 2 layers of this with it. And you can see, I think you can see how there's a little bit of the white showing because that's what the wrong side of this fabric is. So I'm just going to run my scissors around to just clean it up. And if you do it on one side, you know, just make sure on the other, but then I also like to flip it. And then I can see here, I have a little bit of the white showing, so I just trim it up. If you're not too confident sewing such a narrow 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, go ahead and sew a slightly bigger one, maybe even a 1/4 inch. Your pouch will be a little bit smaller than mine, but you'll give yourself more wiggle room to trim and clean things up. All right, I think that looks good. So let me check the questions right quick. Okay, Lori's asking, can you personalize it without an embroidery machine? So that's a good question. If you have a needle, a thimble, and the strength in your hands to kind of poke through this, because remember, if you're using cork or faux leather, you absolutely can hand embroider through it. It's just going to be a lot harder, and you definitely want to make sure that you have like a bigger, thicker, and sharper like sashiko needle to get through it. So it is an option. It's just not going to be quite as easy just because of the thickness of the fabric, the synthetic fabric, okay? All right. Kathy Ann is asking, what needle size or type do you use for this project? Because the sides only require us to sew through 2 layers of either cork or the faux leather, I use an 80-12 universal needle. If your machine maybe can't handle this, even though this is not really that much bulk, most machines should be able to handle it fine. I would go up to a 90-14, but I always use an 80-12. I mean, this is nothing. This is like 2 layers of almost nothing. It was like interface cotton, basically. It's not that thick. All right. Kelly's saying she just tuned in. What are we making? We're making my little Kendall snap pouches. Super cute little notions pouches. So we've sewed it up. We've trimmed it up. That was the second step. Third, all we got to do to finish it off is grab our snaps. My little snap kit, snap pliers. I get these off of Amazon. They are cam snaps, and I included a link in the description box below the YouTube video here. We'll put it in the chat. If you're on Facebook, you can find it on there too. And if this demo is a little bit long-winded for you, I know some people don't like these. They're like, you ramble too much. I'm like, that's what WIP Wednesday is all about. I do something, but I run my mouth. So if you want just to get down to the nitty-gritty of the step-by-step tutorial, I have a free step-by-step video tutorial on my YouTube channel. And I think it's like 10 minutes long. Super easy, quick, and shows you all these steps. Same things we're going over here. So now we need to install our snaps, okay? But you also want to make sure that you measure the same way that we talked about making sure that we're not guessing if you were doing like machine embroidery customization on it. We want to do this as well because we want the snap to be in the middle and we want it to reach down here, okay? Let me show you on this one. I think this color's maybe show up better. But anyways, you see this end of it cannot be too close to the top, otherwise the snap won't grab it. And if you install this one a little bit off and then the bottom part here centered, they're not going to close on each other. So there is some measuring required for this step, but it's not hard, okay? So the pouch itself, if you're using our faux leather pack, which we sell in 4 packs of assorted colors, measures from here to here 5 inches. Okay, and you can see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These each measure 1 inch. If I place it on my cutting mat like that, 5 inches. Half of 5 inches is 2.5. Super easy. Let me grab, I'm going to grab a black pen just so that it shows up good for y'all. So 5 across, and I'm looking for the halfway point. So that's 2.5. Okay, I'm just putting my ruler here at 2.5. So 2.5 is going to be right here. And I'm going to measure about 1/2 inch down. Like that. Now, when you make this little mark, make sure, like, just look at it by going like this and kind of auditioning it, that the mark is not too far up, that it's not coming into the bottom of the pocket fabric. It has to reach. Otherwise, you're not going to have a working snap, all right? So that's where I'm going to install my first one. And I always install the top one first. I'll install the male end of it here. So I'm going to use my awl. This is a sharp stiletto. And I poke a hole right through it, okay? Then you take the end cap, which is smooth on one side and has the little prong sticking out on the other. And the outside, which is the pretty side of our fabric, has to have the smooth end, all right? So think of everything visually. How is it supposed to look when it's done? If I look at this, I know that that side needs to be to the outside, so that's how I'm going to install it. Make sure that you push the fabric around it, especially if you're working with maybe a bulkier faux leather or a vinyl. You want to make sure that you have that pushed down so that there's enough of that prong sticking up that it can squish it down, that the pliers I'm going to use next has enough of a prong to squish down. That's what holds the 2 components of the snap together. Then I'm going to grab the male end of my snap and push it onto it. You should see that the prong is sticking out inside the opening there, the little hole that was on the male end. Then take your snap pliers, and I literally have had these maybe for 12 years. This is the first set I bought, the cam snap set I bought when I made my son's first cloth diapers, and he's going to be 12 next month. So it's a little rusted there, but it still works. So I'm just going to press down, and this has to go centered, so you definitely want to maybe practice. If you're installing snaps and this is your first project that you're installing it in, I usually have to do it twice. You know why? Because if I press too hard, I can snap it, and I'm a little bit rough-handed, so when you look inside of it, you should no longer see the little prong that was sticking up. It should now be smashed down. And that's how you know that the male end and the end cap have now been put together. So that's not going anywhere. Next, I fold this down And because the male end sticks out, I just press it there so that I can see where is the indentation on the opposite side, and that's gonna make it so that I install the female end of it perfectly, okay? So I'm just kind of squishing down, boom. It made a nice dent there. Be careful because this kind of like, it goes back like, whoo, and it eases up on the fabric, so you wanna look where the dent is and make sure that you quickly go ahead and poke another hole there for the next part of it. Now, instead of installing the snap from the inside, this needs to be, or excuse me, instead of installing it from the pretty side like we did here, it needs to be opposite. It needs to come in from the outside, or excuse me, from the inside out like that, because this end needs to be here in order for the snap to work. So if you're new to installing snaps, walk yourself through those steps and ask yourselves, okay, if this is on this side, is it going to be a working snap? Will that work or not? After you do a couple of them, boom, it'll come like second nature to you. All right, so same thing, I'm pushing everything down. I see the prong sticking out in the middle. I'm going to center my pliers, give it a good squeeze. Ta-da! And now I can close it shut. Now, usually with these plastic snaps, they say that they are designed to basically click close and open 10,000 times. So you'll notice that at first it might be a little bit stiffer. So usually, especially when I teach little kids and they make little snap pouches and stuff, I would always, after I install the snap for them, I would just go like this, maybe 5, 10 times just to ease it up. Sometimes the kids, when they're like 6 or 7, it makes it a little bit hard for them to pop it open. But once you do it a few times, it just kind of like almost like it wears into the other end of it and becomes a little easier, okay? But that's it. That's how you make my Kendall snap pouch. Remember that to make this and to get the same shape here, I created a free downloadable PDF pattern for you. The link for that is in the description box below this video. It's over on my blog. I wrote up a little blog on this project, and where the list of supplies is, you'll see Kendall Snap Pouch downloadable PDF, and it's hyperlinked. So you just click on it, boom, and a one-page PDF will pop up for you so that you can download it, print it, and make as many as you want. Now, here's a quick tip for those of you that maybe are new to PDF patterns, because I usually get this question a lot, especially for small pouches, okay? If you want to make the pouch bigger, guess what all you have to do is? Remember I said, in order to print this out correctly, like to the size that I designed here, this little 1 inch by 1 inch square box needs to measure that 1 inch by 1 inch, okay? So if you want it to be bigger, don't try to like guesstimate and add to this side or add to that side. All you have to do is go into your printer settings, and instead of printing at 100%, print at 105%, 120%. And that is going to keep the template itself completely proportional, and it's just going to increase it that much more. So you can do that to, you know, whatever PDF patterns you want to do, especially if they're one page like this. There's a lot more room on the page for you to make this a little bit bigger. So play around 108%, 110. And if you want to make it even smaller than this, do the same thing and just go down to like 94%. Whatever you want to do, okay? But that's one way that you can play around with the template size. Let's go ahead. I'm going to look real quick to see if I have any questions. Andrea says, can you sew a decorative trim on the closed flap? So if you, maybe, I'm not sure what you're asking, but if you're saying like, can you sew something around this edge, you can. I mean, obviously you can do whatever you want with these types of projects. This is just a quick, simple pouch that I designed to be like this so that you can crank out dozens of them for gifts, right? So if you do want to attach something here like a binding or a trim, just be careful because look how close the snap is installed. So this is about 1/4 of an inch from here to here. Okay, so you don't want to like put on something thicker and then come to here and be like, oh, I can't really sew it because the snap is in the way. So, I mean, this is really small and it's like really close to the edge here and really close to the edge here. So just be careful with that. You can obviously make it bigger, buy yourself more room, and then do something like that. But that absolutely works. Leticia says, super cute, super easy. So gonna make multiples. Love it. Awesome. I love to hear it. Donna says, if you enlarge it, will it then print on 2 sheets? If you enlarge it that much, yes. But you'll have to, obviously that's not how it was designed to be. So if you do end up enlarging it where it spans 2 sheets, you'll have to kind of tape them up and make sure that nothing is distorted or got lost off in the printer margins of the sheets. What I would do, because the whole thing is symmetrical, is maybe if that happens, you know, kind of cut it around, tape it together, and then I would fold it along this vertical here to make sure that it's the same. That should be half. It all has to be symmetrical. Okay, so if one is sticking out past the other, then you may want to go in and trim it and clean it up. But yeah. All right. And then Angie says you may need 11 by 17 inch sheet of paper. That would work too if you have a printer that does the legal size paper. Okay. Awesome. All right, so well, that was a quick little WIP Wednesday. I hope that you all enjoyed it. If you need the faux leather sheets, remember, we sell them in multiple colors, but because we don't have the same number of each color, we just put together 4 assorted sheets. Some of them are metallic, some people are getting metallic, some are getting some of the brighter colors, and if you want to order a 4-pack of the colors, just use the link in the description box below. We do still have some in stock, but because the tutorial went up last week, we sold out already. I restocked it, but we don't have that many left. So if you're wanting this, the link is below. You can always shop with us at craftygemini.com/shop and post pictures on the Crafty Gemini page. If you're in my bag group on Facebook, you can post pictures there. I know a lot of you have been doing that already, but I mean, it's such a quick and easy way to make a ton of these pouches, play around with different colored snaps and the decorative stitches, different threads. It's like a quickie, instant gratification project, okay? So I hope that you all enjoyed this WIP Wednesday. I will be back next week with another demo for y'all. And if you're not already subscribed to my email newsletter list, please go ahead and subscribe because I am working on the videos for my next online sewing course. Our bag club already ended. The 5 bags that we taught during this bag club are now available for you to sign up for them individually. So those are at craftygemini.com/shop also. And then I'm working already on the next class. I know a lot of you are looking forward to me teaching another garment sewing class. So I am working on that. If you don't want to miss out, because I get emails all the time, people are like, I missed it, I didn't get the email, I'm not on the list. Make sure that you sign up for my email list. And in order to do that, all you have to do is go to craftygemini.com and you'll see where it says email sign up. Click on that tab, enter your email, and then you'll be in the mix, okay? So you don't miss out on anything, on the updates, on sale prices, and all that stuff that we have going on. All right, thanks everybody for tuning in today. I'll see you next week. Stay dry, stay cool if you're here in Florida or in the South. I mean, I think it's hot even up north. But I will see y'all next week. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody, and happy sewing. Bye. Cool if you're here in Florida or in the South. I mean, I think it's hot even up north. But I will see y'all next week. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody, and happy sewing. Bye. Cool if you're here in Florida or in the South. I mean, I think it's hot even up north. But I will see y'all next week. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody.